I'm preparing to live stream. And it's setting up and redirecting to YouTube. I'm making sure that it works. I'm preparing to live stream. Okay, and I'm shutting down since it is latent. Okay, so before I do that, I need 2 volunteers to moderate the chat in case there's something that it's not clear, somebody has it, that they can stop me and clarify or near the end. Do I have 2 volunteers to be my moderators? Okay, so Kristen is one and David Smith is the other. Okay, so Kristen and David. Okay, so I'm going to start with you, David. When we talk about hardware, and everybody can take notes, and guess what? Right, Connor, when I ask a question in this class, it's not, at this point, you have all ChatGPT, Google, anyone that you want to do in order to find the answer. The only difference, Connor, is when we're taking the exam, I'll be giving you a study guide beforehand. You'll be using software to help you study. Plus, we'll have open-ended questions. I'll give you a list of open-ended questions that I'll pick 2 from those, but you will not be able to use any of your notes. It's closed notes, it'll be one time that everything is closed. So let's talk about storage. And in our readings, we talked about primary storage and secondary storage. So David, we'll start with you. What's the difference? Let's start with primary storage. What is primary storage?
So the primary storage is directly accessed like on the computer. And that's like your RAM, I think.
Okay.
It's like easy and fast to access, but it's like stored temporarily. It gets lost if you turn.
Okay, so we got a lot of the things. So let's do an overview. When I talk about primary storage, I'm talking about I, as a user, when I'm using a program, I'm always using it from the primary storage. Another term that we'll think about in primary storage, we talk about memory. And one part of memory is called RAM, random access memory. So when I'm using, let's say, Excel, everybody knows Excel here, right? Yes, Cole? We're familiar with Excel. When I'm using Excel, it takes a copy, the operating system takes a copy of the program. Let's say it resides in my secondary storage and makes a copy and puts it into primary storage or RAM. So if I'm using right now, if I started opening up a PowerPoint slide, that PowerPoint slide, and I'm reading through it and making editing changes, that PowerPoint slide resides in RAM, resides in memory. Is that clear, Maya? So anytime I'm using it, when I've made changes and then it says, and I close it, it'll say, oh, you made changes. Do you want to save it? Should I save it, Maya? If I made changes to my PowerPoint and I want those changes to remain, let's say, for my next class, what happens?
Well, it automatically saves.
Sometimes it automatically saves based on the software, but I must make sure that it saves it, because if I shut down my computer or close the application, if it wasn't saved, it basically will be removed. That's why they call RAM volatile. Remember hearing that, Maya? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
Okay, so what's important for everybody to do, I'm just kind of doing a review here. What's important is when I'm dealing with RAM, random access memory, it basically then is volatile. It means when my computer shuts down, it gets removed. The software. But anytime I'm using a software program, or what we call kind of an application, it runs where? Maya in RAM. Yes, no, maybe. Okay. When I save it, then I have that RAM then. I have what I call secondary storage. And the examples of secondary storage, Kristen, is what? Like my hard drive?
Secondary is like, isn't that the hard drive? Like the
Yes, it's the hard drive. And that's where my programs
Mhm.
are stored. Not used, they're stored. It's like if I have my desk drawer, I put something in my desk drawer, right? Like my file, and I bring it, that's my secondary storage. And if I bring it on top of my desk and start writing on my pad, that's like RAM. I'm just making an analogy. Can you hear me, Kristen? Yes, no?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's my storage. So when somebody asks you, Kristen, how much memory do you have? Really, you should be talking about how much RAM you have. And you remember our last class, we looked at our own computers and we said how much how much internal memory we have and how much secondary storage. Usually, Kristen, what is larger? This be a good quiz question.
Secondary storage is larger.
Much larger, right? Because what happens? A copy of my software from secondary gets basically put into my RAM to be able to be using it. So the idea is, what's your major, Kristen?
I'm doing finance and entrepreneurship.
Perfect. So if we wanted to forecast the stock market and use algorithms to do that, we would need to have a lot of RAM because we're doing a lot of processing. Think about it. So what the computer does, and that's part of the operating system, it's going to take our program. Let's say we do some financial program that we're going to do. Let's say a program like Ninja Trader. The computer operating system will take that program and place a copy of it in RAM. If it cannot fit the entire amount, it will take it and like switch it back and forth. So it'll be very, very slow. Right? Sometimes based on the software, it will say minimum, it needs 16 of KB RAM. Sometimes it will say 32. And sometimes if you don't have enough, Kristen, you can't run that program. So why is it important that you know that? You may not say, hey, I'm not going to be a hardware vendor or something, but if you're going to be managing your finance group, you're going to be important to know that. Okay, this was what we were talking about, hardware, why that's important, how much RAM I have, how much external, because he'd say it's not just for going to a party and say, did you know that I have a 2 terabyte drive? Nobody cares. But basically I'll need it in order to store, or I'm going to be storing it in the cloud. We talked also about software. There's 2 types of software. What are the 2 types of software? Who can tell me what one type of software is called? One is an OS. What does OS stand for?
Operation software.
Operating. right? An operating system. So OS stands for an operating system. And who cares? If you had a Mac, you remember we went over this, that you had a Mac OS for operating system. And who cares that anybody that designs any software, it has to run on the appropriate operating system. So if we had a financial software program, then Kristen, we'd have to first think of it, what operating systems does it run on? And if it says Windows 11, you would say, hey, most of my staff doesn't have Windows 11. We have to find a solution. Either we run it from the cloud, we have all our people have 2 operating systems on their computers. We'll have to find something to do about it. So that is the operating system. What is the so what about your phone?
Isn't the phone iOS or from
If you have what? What kind of phone?
Apple?
Apple. And guess what? What is iOS? OS stands for operating system. And who cares? Have you ever downloaded an app? Of course you have, right? All apps, what do you think apps are? Applications, right? Has to match the operating system. So if we were going to create an app for our, Kristen, for our new company, we had a great idea for our company and we had our programmers, you'd have to say, well, they would say, well, what operating system? And you said, what does it mean, what operating system? They would tell you what, should we do it for iOS or what's the other operating system for a phone? Who can tell me? Stephanie, what's the other operating system? And if you don't know, what should you be doing?
I will look it up.
With everyone else, right? So Adam, so we know an iOS is popular. Almost all the students have Apple phones, right? Using iOS. But have you ever heard of Samsung phones, Adam?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so that's a hint. If I ask what operating, and that's something you could look up. What operating system does Samsung have? Does
It's
Google
on
have a phone?
Android OS.
Yeah, so Android OS, look at you, right? So that's the idea. So a lot of times in the United States, people will say, oh, we'll do an app. We're limited in resources right now. In the United States, Kristen, you'll tell them what? Go ahead and write it for iOS first. But guess what? There's a whole group of people, especially outside of the United States, that use Android. Do you want to limit them? No, they'll make a version for Android. The same thing with a Mac. There's basically, what's another popular operating system for laptops? Who can tell me besides Mac OS? Kristen?
Is it Windows?
Yeah, Windows.
Windows, and there's different versions, and who cares, because some software doesn't run on depending on what versions. Now it's popular Windows 11. So if they have Windows 11, there's even in Excel, right? You've worked with Kristen Excel, right? Right?
Not really, but like kind of, yeah.
Kind of, right? There's a version for Mac and there's a version for Windows. The Windows has more sophisticated features. Usually the first ones go to Windows first, because what? Microsoft owns Windows, and Microsoft then wants to give those more robust features to their own operating system. Then guess what? They don't want to say, we don't want to give Excel not to Apple users. That would be silly. They want to be in business, right? So they have a different version. Everybody with me so far? Okay? Adam, any questions? No. So we're okay with that. So we know then another part, if I look at another part, let me just do this. Let me share my screen. You tell me if I see your screen, right? You all know how to share your screen. If you look at your screen, let me go to this operating system, this is the key for this TG2, is that I have my hardware here, I have my system software, and this is really another thing, is operating systems, my OS, and then I have around this, I have my application systems, and you know it, Maya's what? Just apps, right? You've downloaded apps before, right? Any application. PowerPoint right now is an application, right? You've been on Instagram. Instagram is an application, right? It doesn't matter. What you have here is those are applications that are important to use. Everybody with me? So the next thing that I want to look at is this, which is data and knowledge management. And what I want to do with data and knowledge management is talk about managing data and to talk about big data and databases. It's a lot of terms, and let me make it in plain English how you know about it. We have no problems really now in technology of not having enough data. Do you agree with me, Daniel? We have plenty of data. What is the issue about data? Is making sense out of it, being able to understand what the data is telling me. If I have data about, let's think about this. We're all in the same organization, right, Sandro? We're all in the same organization. You agree with me? We have different roles, right? I have a different role than you do, but we're all in this. Does this organization we're in right now, which turns out to be the university, do they have any data on us? Yes, no, you have to unmic yourself. We're recording, so we're like in deposition, yes. Sandro, and they always tell you, answer the question, shaking your head isn't good enough, right? So I'm the prosecutor, right? So I'm asking you, hopefully you don't feel like that you're being prosecuted, but anyways, is that it's not enough. So Sandro, work with me. So in this case, I want not only you, Sandro, but everybody hear me? I want you now to think about the university, think about yourself, and write specifically 6 data items the university has about you. Everybody understand? Stephanie, you understand what my assignment is right now? What is it, Stephanie?
Yes, it's to write 6 things that the university would have about
items
you.
that the university has that reflects you. So write them down. I don't care how you write it. You write it with a pen, you write it on your notepad, you write it on your phone. I want 6. Okay. Who wants to start? Raise your hand if you want to be the first that you'll work with me. So Cheyenne, let's start with you. Let's start with 6 items the university has.
I'm researching.
You have to get your mics cleared up with, you have echo.
I don't know if it's working.
Yeah, now it's perfect.
I'm looking right now, so I haven't got an answer just yet, but I'm on my phone doing it right now, so.
You're on your phone doing what?
The assignment.
You don't need your phone to do anything. Do you understand what the question is? What's the question? What are 6 items that the university has collected about you?
Yes.
Yeah, you should know this top of the head. You don't need ChatGPT. You don't need anything. So let's start with Connor. What are 6 items? Give me 6 items.
My name.
And then I'll have you chime in a minute, Cheyenne. So listen to Connor.
My name,
Okay, it has what? Just the name. It's going to break it down. It has your first name, right?
First, middle, last.
And it has middle, last. What else does it have? Those
My
are called
address.
fields. Okay, what else? That's
My
it?
address.
Your
My
address?
address.
Okay. What else?
Probably my social security number.
And your social security number, and it has probably your C number, right? Everybody has a
Mhm.
C number. What else? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need one more. That's it, Connor.
Oh, my grade. The grade that I'm in.
Your what?
The grade that I'm in.
What do you mean the grade you're in? You mean like if you're the year you are, like freshman, sophomore? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Or you mean your grade, that your GPA?
Either or.
Either or. So let's say it knows your year, right? If you're first year, second year, third, and it has GPA. You knew that, right, Cheyenne? That's nothing that you wouldn't know, right? You know that. What else does it have? So basically,
It has
what?
my age. It has the
So it
course
has a
I'm-
date of birth. It's not going to just put your age, let's say, of 20 or 19. It wants the date of birth. Why? Just don't want to say 19 because it wants to be a computer. So it has a date of birth. What else?
It has the courses I'm taking, my graduation year.
Right, right. So your courses, right? It has your major, when you're graduating. Okay, let's just even say that. Let's say the registrar has that information, right? So if I put that, all those fields, right? They have that, Cheyenne. The registrar has it. Who else has that same information about you? What school are you in, Cheyenne?
The University of Miami.
The school,
business
but what
school.
the business school?
Yes.
And what major are you?
I'm a management major.
Management, right? So the business school has that data about you, right?
Yes.
It also has what else does it? And your management department has that about you. And the registrar has that about you. And probably financial aid maybe has that about you.
Yes.
And maybe also the health center has that about you. And who has a car here? Anybody have a car on campus? Right? Parking, right? And then, and we can go on and on. Let's say Cheyenne, they have that address, and then they have what? Your present address and your home address. Are they different?
Yes, they are different because I'm living on campus. And
Okay, so you're living on campus. So guess what? The housing department has that. So let's say you move out of, maybe you don't want to stay there all 4 years on housing, even though do you like the on campus? I'm just curious. You like it there?
Yes, I do.
I know, it's beautiful. I think it's really nice now, So it's really, it looks like a little country club. Who wouldn't like it? Got beach volleyball, right? People are wondering, is that a country club or is that a university? So in that case, let's say you move, Cheyenne, and I don't know where you want to go. Maybe you want to go South Beach, Brickell, Fisher Island, wherever, and you move. We already counted 10 different sources that we just know of that has your address. What's going to happen when you move? And
well, they'll change it to my new address.
Who is they?
The registrar, whoever I give the information to the school.
Okay, give it to the registrar. And what about the business school? And what about the department? And what about the health center?
They will update.
If they're separate files, they have to update that 20, let's say 20 times conservatively. What's the problem of updating it 20 times?
Well, I guess it can get difficult to keep up.
First of all, do you even know if it's going to be moved over 20 different times? Who do you have to even contact? Is the impetus on you to go 20 different places? You don't want to go to 20 different. I wouldn't want, if I moved, to go to 20 different places. And could they possibly make mistakes if they put it in 20 different times? They can. So there's an idea. What they have is what they call, instead of just data files, called a database management system. So what it's called, Cheyenne, if we think about it, it's something called a database management system. And that means we try, Cheyenne, to store the data in one place that's common to all. So when does the update happen? The update would only be once. And then separate information for those that need to know. You remember we talked about like the audit area, the need to know. I'm giving you the need to know in the audit area, but in your regular student area, your need to know is only about your grades. So it's the same type of thing, that what you can change, what you cannot change, and that is what they call database management systems. So let me share my screen. And what is important is, Cheyenne, what we call data governance. And the university, because they're an organization, needs to worry about data governance. So if I go back to that, it basically means that if the university is holding our data, they hold, Cheyenne, not only do they hold your data, they hold my data. Why do they hold my data? They need to know that I'm a professor of the business technology and also in the medical school. They need to know that I have a secondary appointment. They need to know what my salary, they need to know my rank, they need to know if I'm tenured, they need to know what basically my address, my social security number, my C number. They have to decide. Data governance, Cheyenne, means the organization has to have policies and procedures to decide what are they going to do with the data, which data to collect. They have to be familiar. If they're the health center, they have to follow what they call HIPAA guidelines for basically to make sure that they're not telling the world what diseases I have, about your medical information, because guess what? They have to keep it secure. You'll see the biggest fraud, where it's the most expensive, where they can buy it, is medical records. They love to steal, all those thieves, they love to steal medical records because they can sell in the black market for different ways. So they have to keep it secure. If not, they can be sued. They can get their license revoked to be a hospital. Can you imagine that? Part of education, there's rules in education tell them they have to keep your information also secure. Nobody needs to know, unless you've given permission, your GPA. That's your business. I have permission, but you know what? I do not have permission to look at your other grades. I have no business on. I'm not your advisor, right? But I need to know how you're doing. But if you came to me, Cheyenne, and you said, what is your major, Cheyenne? Cheyenne, what's your major?
I'm a management major.
Management major. And let's say you took a course in a management, and it was on entrepreneurship, and you thought you did really well. And you said, you know what, Dr. Rush, I really did well. And I don't think I deserved an A minus. I think I deserve an A. Can you and then let me show you what I did for that class. Can you change it? And I'd say, that's nice, but you know what? I have no authority to change your management grade. But if, you came back and say, you made an error here in my grade, I submitted this, then I have authority. That is data governance. And what's going to be important is how to manage this data. This is where organizations have difficulty. You say, what's the big deal? It's a big deal because they got to think, what kind of data should they even collect? What is legal to collect? What can they do in order to forecast? Let's say, Cheyenne, me and you were going to be in charge of recruitment for the university. We need to collect data to find out our students, maybe, where did they come from? Which students really love it here? Which students really succeeded? What were the characteristics of those students? For what purpose? So we could forecast, and we could then recruit better and say, these students from this part of the country with this type of interests that are majoring in this type really will succeed and love it and will remain here. There may be students that have a high GPA, but this, Cheyenne, could you imagine this may not be the place for them? Could you understand that? Or people that maybe are on the cusp there, but they really could flourish here. And they could just love it. And why do we care? We're basically, even though we're nonprofit, we want our students to remain here for at least 4 years. And we want our students also to succeed well. I want you to do the best you can for not only your sake, but also if I were a university to come back and, if you became the CEO of, the next Oracle, Cheyenne, and just so you know that Safra Katz is one of the, most successful CEOs, and, her stock went up 30% last week. And guess what? She's done really well. So I would want her to be my alumni. So that's where I'm managing the data. So what we have is what we call the database approach. What does the database approach mean, Cheyenne? That I'm putting my data as much as I can in one place, so I don't have a lot of redundancies. So if I think about that, let me just go to the next slide. If I think about that, is we know there's difficulties of managing data. You need to know what those difficulties are, and basically keeping up what data to do, how to clean up my data, is my data timely, and who's in charge. Who's in charge? I know I'm in charge of our data, but I've given permission for Lily to also be in charge of your grades. But some parts of your end grade, Cheyenne, who's in charge is me. Lily can do your grading, but she is not in charge. In order to change your final grade, Lily does not have permission to change your final grade. Doesn't it make sense? You don't want everybody to be able to change. You want to have people that are responsible, that own the difficulties. So one of the difficulties of managing data is that, first of all, there's so much data. You don't just even have data. Do you think the universities look at social media of their students? Cheyenne?
No.
They do.
Oh, lovely.
That's good to know. You don't even know, right? But they look at, even in recruiting students, they look at their social media. And I don't even know that, if they look at social media, that one employee got fired this weekend because of what that employee posted on social media. So think about that. And then the university has to say, well, what's responsible? Was it on a private account? Yes. But was she? So it basically is a number of ways in which they're looking at it. And it also, you can have fake data, right? Now with AI, somebody can come and do a video and it wasn't even me. What do? They can get my voice, right? It's scary too, right? Put in some words and it wasn't even words that I said. They have to look at it. So what's important is they have to see if is it timely data? Is it data that, hey, it's your GPA, but it's from a year ago? Have they updated it? Is it secure? Guess what? Have you ever been that your data now is in the health center, right? One of the biggest places that people get hacked are hospitals. Why? Because they don't have a lot of security, and then they can get everybody's data. So data security, what's the quality? Government regulations. There's regulations for hospitals. There's regulations for education. There's regulations for banks. So what's key here is, what's really important here in the data governance is an approach. How do we get it across the entire organization? How do we get, somebody comes to me and says they want a student, and in this case, they want a student that's an athlete and also a finance major that has GPA over 3.5 and is female. I don't know what that is. So we want to have everybody across the organization to have access to it. So what we have is what we call a data hierarchy and a relational data model. And this is what you're going to need to know, Connor, for the exam. Asking about database management systems are going to minimize 3 problems. And this is versus a regular data file system. What does that mean? You remember when I said data being stored, your address being stored in 30 different places? If I do a database management system, I'm going to put the data in one place. And when I put the data in one place, I'm going to reduce data redundancy. Why is that good, Connor? Why is it good? Everybody understand my question? Why is it good to have data why is it good to reduce data redundancy? Cheyenne moved to South Beach, right, Cheyenne? You moved to South Beach. At least 30 offices have your data, and it has to be updated at least 30 times. Why do this is a problem, the database management system. If we're going to store it in one place, we don't have to do the updates 30 times. And what's the wrong with that? First of all, it's wasted space. Second of all, it's wasted time. And third, guess what, Cheyenne? Somebody can make mistakes in typing it. They can say South Beach and 5th Street. Somebody else can say 15th Street. You know how it is. Somebody can even basically say, you know, your home address didn't change, whatever. Data isolation, it also tries to minimize. What does that mean? If you are, let's say, an athlete, only the athletic department knows you're an athlete. But what do we want? I told you, Cheyenne, I may have somebody came to me and said they want to give a scholarship to somebody that is an athlete, that is in the management department, and is a female and has a GPA greater than 3.0. I don't know who is an athlete. So that's what's going to reduce. And data inconsistency, of course. Data inconsistencies, various copies don't agree. Some place it said you have a 3.0 average, some place it has a 3.4 average, some places they did a 3 and they made it an 8, and you know it doesn't even make sense. So this is going to be a great, you see that, Connor, as a test question. The other one is what does it want to maximize? So Dana, if I think about what it wants to maximize, a database management system, because I'm putting data in one place, think about it, Dana, I'm putting now your address in one place, or your GPA in one place, or your credit card, not 20 different times, only once. Do you understand? What happens if somebody hacks the database? They only need to find it once, right? I don't have a backup, so I need to maximize the data security. It's more vulnerable. Put it in your notes that database is going to be more vulnerable because the data is stored in one place. And you don't have as many, we have to worry about it. Data integrity, let's say that we have it once, Cheyenne, your address that they changed, and whoever copied it has the wrong address. If we had many copies, at least that would be a flag for me. Hey, wait a minute, she's South Beach. Wait a minute, she's in housing. Wait a minute, let's contact Cheyenne and say, where do you live? If it's one place, one copy, we're not sure we can rely on it. And data independence, if something, what I want to make sure is if they delete one part of your record, the data still remains. They don't reliant. So it's not linked together. So those are the keys when I talk about it. So I know this is the case. And then if you look at this is a database management system. Do you see this, Cheyenne? Look at this for me. I have the registrar's office. This could be the management department instead of accounting. And if you're an athlete, this could be the athletic department. Or we could have one student that was an accounting major and an athlete. So what the registrar would produce is the listings, the course enrollment, the student registration data, the accounting would, and this could be the accounting part, and this could even be financial aid. The student tuition data, the student fee, the student payment data. The athletics department knows about what team the student is on and the student data. All of this gets into the database management system. You can see some advantages, some things I want to minimize, some things I want to maximize. And this is key. There's something that you need to know, and also for the test, is what about data? How the computer understands this. And this is from the lowest end to the highest end. I talked about before that the computer only understands zeros and ones. We don't have to know that in terms of reading it, but that's really on and off switches is the way that the computer does any calculations. On and off is how it basically puts in words. It doesn't matter. And what they say above that is a byte is 8 bits that represent a character. And a field, you can think about a field is a column of data. So think about it. Stephanie, is like a spreadsheet. If I had a grading spreadsheet, right, each column would be called a field. And my entire grade book would be called a data file, or think about it as a sheet. And my database could be related tables or related sheets. So if I look at the hierarchy of data, this could be my university database. I could have then faculty file. I could have a student file. So this right here is files. Underneath the files are records. Put in your notes then. And let me just even go back to here. Let's go back here. Which they forgot is a record. Is like a row. Is related fields. If I have 40 students, Cheyenne, in my class, let's say I have 40 students in my class, my grade book would have how many records? I have 40 students in my class. How many records would I have? I'd have 40, right?
Yeah, you have one for each student.
Each student is a separate row. So even if I looked, let's do this. This is J, and let's go to Wiley reading. Doesn't matter which one, but let me go to data You remember the adaptive assignments? And you remember, I have a different view, Cheyenne, than you do. I'm the instructor, so I'm going to see what all my students do, right? And let's see if it works. And if I go to students, this could be my file. Notice it says I have 39 students. You see that? So I have 39 of these records. This right here, it says student name. This is what? A field. This is time spent. This is a field. Questions completed. And the grade is what I have. You know this. This is no big shakes, right, Cheyenne? You just don't know the terminology of it. But now you know that every row is a record. Every column is a field, and all of these together that are related make up a table. And what we're able to do in a database is then query the database and find me those students that got, right, completed their progress of 100%. Right? And that's what they do for dashboards. They give you ways to do it. So if I looked at the content here, they're based on those tables, right? Of giving me, when I went to the students, right? They're giving me this overall. It's not due yet, right? But they're giving me overall. They're trying to say is what is the class project? How many students completed? Who hasn't even started? Who's in progress, right? And I can search and help and get different help. So that is the case in which they are doing that database. That's the same thing. What you just saw for that chapter 5, that was a file, right? That is a record having Cheyenne, right? Of the record. And then the faculty, it could be, then this is a faculty database with all the faculties based on department, based on school. And what you need to know, we'll go into it more next time, is something called a primary key. And what a primary key is a field that can identify a record. So let me just stop sharing. So a primary key, Aaliyah, is a way, a primary key will identify a unique record in my file. So if I have a student, think about it here. You are all my records in the file. You got it? You with me? Aaliyah, you are all my records in the file. I need to find a field, a column that will uniquely identify each record. And my question to the class, and raise your hand, is what should I use as a field? Ian, do you understand my question?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. I want a primary key that will uniquely find an individual record that I'm looking for, that will be unique. And I'm saying I want to create this database file with a column, and what column will be unique for me to find an individual record. So what were column names? Like first name, last name, grade, one, time. I need to add, really, I'll give you a hint. I need to add, to be unique, I need to add an additional field to my grade book. And so give me an example of what could I use?
Are you like insinuating like using like a search bar for like finding individuals or?
Right, like I want to find an individual, yeah, that's going to be unique. What will help me find that individual that's unique? What key called a primary key should I use that will make that each record will be unique based on that key? Somebody could say use last name, but what's the problem with last name, Ian?
Sometimes people have the same last names.
Yeah. What's the problem with first name? Same thing, right? Sometimes I have a David Smith, this thing, you know, I have to use, right? It's not going to be unique. Their grade on their test isn't going to be unique. I could have Ian, right? If 5 people get 100, is that a possibility? Yeah. So I'm asking you, Ian, I'm asking the rest of the class. Everybody understand the class? What field could I use to add to that? Because last name and first name isn't going to do it. Adam?
You could use our C numbers.
C number. Is a C number, Ian, unique? Is your
It is,
C
yeah.
number? Yeah. And that's why do they give us C numbers?
Because they're unique and
Unique, so they can find you. Based on the C number, I can find you. Even though you think, Ian, Edward, that you have a unique name, you possibly could not. It's a possibility, right?
yeah.
You know it, right, Ian? Right? You would know that. Normally, you would use social security number, right? Every social security number is unique. What's the problem with that? Why isn't the university using a social security number? That could be you. Somebody could say that could be a unique field. Everybody understand my question? Ryan, you understand my question? What's my question?
It was like another thing that you can add. Like I forget the word you used, but like instead, just not your name.
But I'm saying, why
Form of
wouldn't the
identification.
university use social security number?
Oh, why wouldn't they use because it's
Why
like
would they
private
not?
information? Oh,
What?
because it's private information.
One private, what else?
Not like I guess not as memorable wouldn't be it.
Aaliyah, what do you think?
I'm so sorry. I can't put my camera on. But I think because, for example, I'm an international student and I don't have a social security.
She doesn't have a it's given by if you're a citizen of the United States or you're resident. Foreign students, right, Ryan, don't have social security numbers many times. So you don't want to have a unique name where you have, let's say, 20% of our students wouldn't be identifiable. So what they do is, one, you're right, Ryan, that we don't want to leave that out. Why? Because it's unique, so somebody could use it, right? Even though most social security numbers have been leaked out anyways, right? But we don't want to give them to everyone, that they can use it to forge and be what basically pretend to be me, you know. So that's why they put out, as soon as you enroll, right, Ryan, you got a C number. It's not unique. That's called what? A primary key. Who cares? That's why you can then search, Ian, right? And get to that. When you do that search, I can find exactly when I want to enroll a new student into, let's say, the audit area, right, Ian? And you had permission to enroll somebody. One of the ways in which a field you could use is give me your C number, and I can find you. Last name, I may find, 5 Perez or Gonzalez, right? That's common at Miami, right, Stephanie? So I bet you're not the only Perez in the university. What do you think?
I think there's like 5 other Stephanie Perez's.
And Stephanie, right?
Yeah, I've seen.
You've seen, right? So that she's a perfect example of why that they say first name, last name, is not unique. And then sometimes they'll use first name, last name. They'll combine them together. First name, last name, phone number. Maybe the phone number is unique, but the phone number you could share with somebody, right? Phone number you can change, right? Often. Everybody with me so far? So that's kind of the idea for that. So you have an assignment, right? Finishing up, I guess, your recordings. On Wednesday, I'll meet back with you. And I will talk more about databases. And I will give you a new assignment because you say, hey, I'm bored, right, Connor? I want more, right? And I'll give you, then we'll go over software, which will be basically a way of a learning tool. Basically to review, to create podcasts over your material, to be able to create video, to be able to create quiz questions, test questions, to query it. Pretty neat, huh? And we'll eat as I say, we'll eat our own dog food. We'll use it to prepare for the exam. We'll use software, right, Stephanie? But you can go around and instead of taking your book, sometimes I want everybody to exercise. You can take it and listen to the podcast telling you about the different chapters. And wouldn't it be nice that you can then query and say, well, what about this? Can you tell me more about that? I'm not sure what an operating system is. Basically have it within your ears or be able to see it as we go through it. Anything else, Lily, that I need to do?
Just attendance.
Just attendance. And are you?
Yeah, I'll set that up right now.
Okay, are you co-host? Do I have to make you? Do I have to promote you? Looks like not. Right in there, huh? Perfect. Is this my 1438? And stay with me if you have additional questions, comments. And I thank everybody. I thank my moderators. I don't think there was anything in the chat. We can do it. Stephanie, you were a great example. It's like we rehearsed it, right? Stephanie, okay. And Tate, I see you now. We got your computer up and running. What is?
Wait, yeah, I just had a question about attendance for last time.